Hello, this is Pastor Greg, and welcome to Wednesday of Holy Week's Devotional. The scripture lesson for Wednesday of Holy Week is found in Matthew 26, 14 through 16, and it reads this way. Then one of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What will you give me if I return Jesus over to you?" They paid him 30 pieces of silver. From that time on, he was looking for an opportunity to turn him in. There's a tradition that the Wednesday of Holy Week was the day that Judas met with the priests and made the arrangements to betray Jesus. Therefore, it was traditionally called Spy Wednesday. There aren't any clear rituals to be performed on Spy Wednesday, so it appears to be a day of reflection and wonder. Part of what we wonder about is how Judas came to be the one who betrayed Jesus. Why was Jesus betrayed by a friend and not just condemned by enemies? What drove Judas to do such a thing? The Gospels are largely silent about motivations. All four Gospels tell a story about a woman who washed Jesus' feet with anointment from an alabaster flask and then dried them with her hair. But they all tell it a little differently. Matthew and Mark position the story right before the Passion and allow Jesus to say this was in preparation for his burial. Luke puts the story much earlier in Jesus' ministry, and it becomes a lesson in the power of forgiveness and leaders who don't think they need forgiveness. John gives us the story with a lot more detail, even though it was written even further after the events. In John's version, the woman is named as Mary of Bethany, sister to Martha and Lazarus. In the three pre-Passion accounts, there is rumbling about the wastefulness of such an act. The very expensive ointment that could have been sold for more than 300 denarii, almost a year's wages. Jesus shushes the complainers and commends the woman for her act of blessing and sacrifice. And he declared that what she had done would be remembered whenever the gospel is proclaimed. John tells us the complainer is Judas and that his motive wasn't all good. No, he used to steal from the common purse, John says. The implication seems to be that he loved money rather than service. And it was Jesus' attempt to justify such a wasteful extravagance that drove him over the edge. Matthew and Mark both tell us it was after this incident that Judas went to the priests and offered to be Jesus' betrayer. Was it really something as simple as greed that drove Judas to do what he did? Or was it jealousy that Matthew and Mark seemed to hint at? Or was it something more complex and beyond comprehension? But it really isn't beyond our comprehension. We'd like to think that we'd never betray a friend, that we'd never sell a friend out or give up on a dream, except that we do, and we have, and we probably will again. We might even wonder if John was so specific about Judas' state of mind in order to distance himself from the choices Judas made. But we can't distance ourselves, not if we're honest. Compounding the issue is that it has happened to us from time to time, and we take great offense and carry deep wounds, and rightly so. Psalm 70 presents a life under siege and a strong desire for deliverance. The psalmist says, "I met my brother the other day, and I gave him my right hand. As soon as ever my back was turned, he scandalized my name." As soon as ever. We've all been victims. Maybe Spy Wednesday is an opportunity for us not to dwell so much on the times we've been victimized, but on the times we've been perpetrators. The times we've scandalized the names of our friends or coworkers. Maybe not maliciously, but it happened. We've repeated gossip. We've shared our disappointment. We let our interests get in the way of relationships more often than we'd like to admit. Our first task this Holy Week is to contemplate Christ and the suffering he endured for our sake. In addition, we can be honest about our own sinfulness and how too often we stand with the status quo against the revolutionary kingdom that Jesus came to reveal to us. Too often, our greed, our jealousy, our sense of self motivates us to betray that which we claim to love above all else. In the end, Spy Wednesday is really less about Judas and more about us.